My name wasn't printed. Not on the card, not in the booklet, not on the seating chart. But he saw me. And he paused. I'm Isla Monroe, a 33-year-old botanist who had spent years cultivating a quiet revolution in Asheville's lush forests, a path far removed from the polished lives my family chased with unwavering pride. It was April 2025, and the wedding took place at a sprawling estate nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, its rolling hills and blooming dogwoods a stunning backdrop to my sister Evelyn's engagement to Dr. Theo, a respected ecologist whose research grants dominated the region's academic circles. The air was fragrant with the scent of wild honeysuckle and the soft rustle of silk dresses, the spring light casting a golden hue over the open pavilion where guests gathered in elegant attire, their murmurs blending with the distant trill of a thrush. I'd been invited out of familial obligation, a forgotten shadow among the revelers, my family, my mother, a retired florist with a keen eye for perfection, my father, a university administrator with a love for structure, and my brother Owen, a rising botanist under Theo's mentorship, radiating pride over Evelyn's role as Theo's research assistant, her success a trophy they cherished. She's the only one who made it, my mother had whispered at the rehearsal dinner, her voice laced with satisfaction, my father nodding with a smug smile, their praise a wall I couldn't scale, their words lingering in the candlelit room. I sat quietly at the edge of the gathering, my hand-woven shawl, dyed with pigments from plants I'd foraged, standing out against the sleek gowns, my fingers nervously tracing a field journal filled with sketches of rare flora. They were unaware of my venture, Verdant Roots, a botanical research initiative I'd started 4 years ago with $3,800 from herb sales, now valued at $27,000 and earning $2,400 monthly from conservation grants. The omission of my name stung, a public erasure of my efforts, but it was the minister's reaction that turned the day into a turning point. As I stood to adjust my seat, his eyes locked onto mine, his voice faltering mid-sentence, a pause heavy with shock, fear, and a flicker of recognition that sent a shiver through me, his gaze hinting at a buried secret. I had no answer, but the moment planted a seed of intrigue, and perhaps danger, as I stepped into the cool mountain air, the forest's whisper a backdrop to my racing thoughts. Our backstory was a tapestry of family tension and unspoken rivalry, woven into Asheville's verdant hills. Growing up in the Montford neighborhood with its historic homes and garden-lined streets, I was the wild daughter, always collecting leaves and soil samples while Evelyn excelled in science fairs, her precision earning accolades. Our rift deepened when I chose independent botanical research in 2018, rejecting my mother's push for floral design, her meticulous arrangements, or my father's academic path, a journey they deemed reckless. Evelyn thrived under Theo, her engagement a pinnacle of their approval, a union that solidified her status, while I built Verdant Roots in a rented greenhouse near the French Broad River, the city's misty air a companion to my late-night experiments fueled by herbal tea and resolve. By 2021, I'd secured a $5,000 grant from a conservation group, hiring a mentor, botanist Dr. Lila Chin, for $900, her expertise a guiding light, my savings reaching $4,300 as I documented endangered species. The wedding exposed their disregard, igniting a fire to prove my worth with my discoveries. Theo's reaction and the minister's pause suggested a hidden connection. Had he seen my research? Had we crossed paths in some forgotten field study? A mystery that lingered as I drove home, the river's reflection shimmering under the moonlight, each ripple a question. The journey began with fierce resolve, a silent vow under the greenhouse's soft light. I returned to my space, the faint hum of the river audible through the open window, and reviewed Verdant Roots' progress, my workbench strewn with pressed leaves and soil samples, a map of my ambitions etched in green ink and sweat. My latest find, a rare orchid Lumen Petal, had gained attention with a $1,100 grant from a biodiversity fund, a modest win that fueled my drive. I worked 55-hour weeks, my hands stained with earth, guided by Lila's insight into Theo's outdated methods, a gap I could exploit with my innovative approach. My savings rose to $5,200, and I invested $1,700 in a portable lab near the Biltmore estate. Its historic grounds a fitting stage for my vision, projecting $3,500 returns. At a conservation symposium in May 2025, held in a hall with the scent of pine, I presented Lumen Petal, earning a $1,300 contract from a nature preserve, my voice steady despite my nerves. But Theo's presence, networking with funders, his lab coat a symbol of authority, unsettled me, his glance toward my table a chilling moment. Could I challenge an academic giant? I pressed on, drafting a plan on a cafe napkin in the rain, the ink smearing, a symbol of my fight against family erasure and his dominance. The confrontation simmered as I met Lila, her data showing Theo's vulnerabilities. Outgrow him, she urged. A former colleague, Sam, warned of sabotage, fueling my ambition to turn their omission into my breakthrough. I expanded Verdant Roots with a $3,200 grant, savings at $6,500, valuation at $30,000. Sam's caution about Theo's ties was ignored. A rival researcher plagiarized my findings, linked to Theo, costing me a $1,700 grant, a loss that stung. A supplier cut my soil samples, citing his pressure. Was this sabotage? In my greenhouse, rain tapping, I felt the wedding's sting and a rising challenge. What did Theo know, and why did the minister pause? The sting of my name's omission and the minister's startled pause lingered as I stood in my Asheville greenhouse, the faint glow of the Blue Ridge Mountains visible through the misty glass, their rugged peaks a silent witness to my turmoil. The $1,300 nature preserve contract was a fragile win, my savings at $6,500, but the $1,700 grant loss to a plagiarized finding and the soil supplier's cut-off gnawed at me, hints of Theo's influence tightening its hold. Was this sabotage to stifle my research? My hands, stained with soil from tending Lumen Petal, trembled as I pressed a new sample, the earthy scent blurring with my racing thoughts. Lila's belief in my botany was a lifeline, but doubt crept in. Could I withstand an ecologist's academic power? I called Sam, his voice tense over the line, confirming Theo's history of undermining peers. He'll bury you if he can, he warned. I steeled myself, the hum of the humidifier a steady pulse, determined to turn their erasure into my bloom. The next week, I met Lila at a co-working space near the River Arts District, the scent of paint and the murmur of artists grounding me amid the tension. Her furrowed brow scanned the plagiarized report and the supplier's rejection, the papers rustling under her fingers. This is targeted, she said, sketching a plan, secure new samples, boost outreach, expose Theo's flaws. I nodded, the clink of a teacup a rhythmic beat, and contacted local foragers, their cautious interest a flicker of hope. I launched a Root Rise crowdfunding campaign, investing $1,400 from my savings, now at $5,100, projecting $3,000 returns to expand my lab. In the greenhouse, I briefed my small team, a field assistant, a data analyst. In the humid space, the air thick with the tang of wet earth. We're under attack, I explained, showing the evidence, my voice firm despite their worried glances. Their nods, a blend of resolve and support, bolstered me, their dedication a shield. My valuation rose to $32,000, a number both promising and fragile. My ascent gained momentum, a surge of purpose driving my trowel. I secured a $2,800 grant with a conservation NGO, their enthusiasm lifting my spirits, and invested $1,100 in climate-resistant seeds, projecting $2,400 returns. My savings stabilized at $5,400, and I upgraded the greenhouse with better irrigation, working 60-hour weeks to refine Lumen Petal amid Asheville's competitive research scene, the city's misty air a constant companion. Sam called, his voice laced with concern, urging caution against Theo's retaliation, his own scars from a stolen thesis fresh. But I hung up, his advice a distraction, my focus sharpening with each planting. The grant added $1,500 monthly, a steady flow that fueled my confidence. Lila's update unsettled me. Theo had been seen with university funders, his influence pushing a smear campaign against my credibility, their alliance a calculated move. He's guarding his turf, Lila said, her tone grim. But his grants are drying up. Peers want innovation. The rivalry burned, pushing me to outgrow them all. The pressure escalated a month later, a test of my resilience. I hosted a field demo near the Biltmore estate, the meadow alive with the scent of wildflowers and the hum of enthusiasts, earning a $2,100 contract from a botanical garden. But tension brewed. Theo's assistant presented a similar orchid, their smirk a challenge, and a critic's article hinted at his sway, questioning my originality. My heart sank, the recognition I'd earned now clouded, but I adjusted my pitch, dipping my savings to $4,800. A legal notice arrived, vague but threatening, suggesting Theo's network was probing my permits, a subtle intimidation that quickened my pulse. Was this his move? I consulted Lila, her analysis suggesting a public challenge to reclaim the narrative. I agreed, planning a live presentation to unveil Lumen Petal, the risk heightening my resolve. The event, held under the estate's ancient oaks, drew 150 attendees, my hands steady as I explained its ecological impact. The crowd's applause was a boost, but Theo's presence, watching from the edge, his expression cold, sent a chill. Whispers spread, lifting my contracts to $2,300 monthly, yet the pressure grew. The rivalry deepened as Sam visited, his face etched with worry, bringing news of Theo's faltering reputation. He's losing ground, he said, sharing data on his lab's 14% funding drop since my rise. I seized the opportunity, launching a Verdant Voice campaign to counter his narrative, their support a digital wave that fortified my base. I secured the greenhouse, adding $1,000 in locks and a part-time aide, my savings at $3,800, the team's spirit a bond against the storm. But sabotage struck. Theo's ally contaminated a sample, costing me a $1,300 grant, the betrayal a bitter root. I reported it to conservation boards, their probe slow but promising, my frustration simmering. Theo's shadow loomed larger, his wedding pause now a riddle. Had he seen my early notes? Standing in the greenhouse, the forest's glow casting warmth, I felt the wedding's wound and a challenge that tested my every plant. The truth was near, but at what cost? The contaminated sample and Theo's cold stare from the field demo haunted me as I stood in my Asheville greenhouse, the kiln's warm glow casting flickering shadows across the moss-covered walls. The Blue Ridge Mountains a majestic silhouette through the fogged glass, their peaks a silent sentinel to my inner storm. The Verdant Voice campaign had rallied conservationists, boosting my contracts to $2,800 monthly, my savings at $3,800, but the sabotage and legal threats loomed large, the air thick with the rich scent of damp soil and the faint tang of uncertainty that clung to my fingertips. The truth behind Theo's pause and the minister's reaction was tantalizingly close, a root I could almost unearth, yet the cost, financial strain, family tension, hung heavy, a shadow over my every planting. My hands, rough and stained from tending Lumen Petal, steadied as I propagated a new batch, the humidifiers hum a rhythmic pulse to my resolve. Sam's warning about Theo's desperation echoed, and I knew the next move was mine, to confront the past and claim my botanical legacy. The investigation into the contaminated sample broke open the following week, a turning point that shifted the soil beneath my feet. Conservation boards, spurred by my report and public pressure, raided Theo's lab, the crunch of their boots echoing through the university grounds as they uncovered tampered samples linked to his network, a scheme to discredit my research. The news spread like wildfire through Asheville's academic circles, the streets buzzing with whispers and the rustle of grant proposals. My name cleared as peers turned against Theo's tactics with a fervor that surprised me. I felt a surge of vindication, a warmth spreading through my chest, but the $1,300 lost grant remained a bitter seed, its absence a constant ache. Lila called, her voice triumphant over the crackling line, sharing data on Theo's lab losing 18% funding since my rise, and a cryptic journal entry hinting at a past rivalry he'd buried. "He's crumbling," she said, her tone sharp with opportunity. "Push harder." I seized the moment, launching a root reveal exhibition at the Biltmore estate, investing $1,100 from my dwindling savings, now at $2,700, showcasing Lumen Petal's ecological impact. The event drew 200 attendees, the meadow alive with the scent of wildflowers and the murmur of approval, earning a $3,000 grant from a national conservation trust, a milestone that lifted my valuation to $35,000. The rivalry reached its zenith as I prepared for the exhibition's climax, the air thick with anticipation. I invited Evelyn, hoping to mend the family divide that had shadowed my efforts, her presence at the estate a rare sight, her tailored coat a contrast to my earth-stained jacket, the fabric whispering of her world. Her eyes widened as she examined Lumen Petal, a flicker of respect breaking through her usual reserve, a silent acknowledgement that eased our rift, but she warned me of Theo's counterstrike, legal pressure from his university allies, a subtle threat to my permits. The news tightened my chest, a vice of anxiety, yet it fueled my defiance, a fire stoked by that wedding's slight. I collaborated with the Verdant Voice community, staging a public forum to challenge Theo's academic monopoly, the Pack Square Park packed with 300 supporters under a golden sunset, their cheers a thunderous echo against his influence. My voice trembled as I presented the contamination evidence and the buried rivalry, a 2017 grant theft, the crowd's applause a tidal wave that drowned his reputation, boosting my grants to $3,300 monthly. But the cost was steep. Theo's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, its crisp pages a paper tiger I handed to Lila, who advised a strategic retreat to avoid escalation, her wisdom a lifeline amid the storm. The truth emerged in a quiet, transformative moment, a revelation that wove the wedding into my present struggle. Sam visited on a misty evening, his hands clutching faded field notes from a 2019 expedition I'd led, notes Theo had claimed, presenting them as his own to secure a major grant, a move that had cost me recognition and fueled his rise. The minister's pause wasn't fear of my current success, but guilt over witnessing that theft, a secret he'd carried as my name grew. The realization hit like a sudden bloom, my anger a searing flame mingled with a strange relief, the weight of years lifting slightly. I confronted Theo at the exhibition's closing, the crowd hushed as I laid out the notes, his eyes avoiding mine, his silence a confession that spoke louder than words. The attendees' murmurs grew into a wave, his credibility wilting like dry leaves, my victory sealed not in court but in the court of public opinion. My savings dipped to $1,600 with legal fees, a sacrifice I bore willingly, but my valuation soared to $38,000, a number reflecting my resilience. The aftermath reshaped my world with a quiet strength. I secured a $4,500 contract with a biodiversity institute, their admiration a balm, my monthly earnings reaching $3,600, a steady rhythm that steadied my pulse. I upgraded the greenhouse with a new irrigation system, its gentle drip a song of progress, and began a monograph, Roots of Resilience, its pages a raw testament to my journey, each word a stroke of healing. Evelyn's visit softened our rift further, her apology a fragile bridge, her presence a rare warmth amid the greenhouse's damp chill, while Theo's lab faced a funding freeze, his influence waning like a fading season. Yet peace wavered when an anonymous letter slipped under my door. You've won this round, but the forest hides more. I froze, the paper trembling in my hands, Lila tracing it to a burner email, likely a remnant of Theo's circle. I hired a security consultant for $700, my savings dropping to $900, the greenhouse now a guarded haven with motion sensors. Standing amid my plants, the mountains aglow with dawn's first light, I felt a hard-won triumph, the soil's warmth my ally. But the letter hinted at shadows. Theo's ally? A new rival? I sipped herbal tea, the steam curling upward, ready for whatever challenge rooted ahead. Hey Revenge Tempest fans! Isla's journey from outcast to botanical trailblazer is inspiring. Loved it? Hit that subscribe button and join our community. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from.